Tell us about your experience at Belmont University and what you've been up to since you departed from Texas Tech University.
Well, since I departed from Texas Tech, my family and I, we moved to Nashville, and I joined the faculty at Belmont College of Law. It's a brand new law school. And for the past 3 years, I've been the dean there. And so the primary focus, certainly of the past few years, is making sure that our brand new law school received full ABA accreditation, which we achieved last spring. And we had the highest bar passage rate 2 years ago. Last year, we were at the top again, and so we've got a very successful program there at Belmont, and so I really have enjoyed. My family and I have enjoyed spending time in Nashville.
All right, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and what did you learn or take whenever you were a faculty member at Texas Tech?
What did I? Well, it reinforced in my mind the importance of an education, which obviously represented freedom for me and gave me the opportunity to do some very remarkable things in my life. But also, it does represent freedom for people that come from poor backgrounds. And if you get a good education and prepare yourself and work hard, anything is still possible in our country. And so I was reminded of that each and every day I was in the classroom.
Okay. Do you feel like you learned a thing or two from your students as well, and not just what you learned?
It gave me great hope, It gave me great hope for the future of our country. And so whenever I visit with students, not just at Tech or at Belmont, but I speak to students all around the country. And so I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic by nature, and so in conversing with students, it just reinforces my belief in a very bright future for our country.
So it just makes it more worthwhile.
Sure, of course it does.
And rewarding.
Yes.
You've been doing it a while, you've got a lot of experience.
Right.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and move on. What were your goals and what did you hope to share in writing your book?
There's been a lot said and written about the Bush administration, and obviously we dealt with some pretty remarkable challenges, and I thought it important to get my voice in the conversation, quite frankly, because much of what's been said and written about the Bush administration is either inaccurate or incomplete. And so I simply wanted to set the record straight. I also wrote the book for my sons. I wanted them to know why their dad did what he did and the motivation behind the decisions that we made. I wanted them to hear that, learn that directly from me, and not from something written in the paper or something they hear on television. So that's the reason that I wrote the book.
What are your thoughts on the current political environment in Washington and the nation now compared to a decade ago?
Compared to a decade ago, I'd have to say that it appears to be more divisive today. And yet, in a way, I'm somewhat hopeful because we are at the beginning of a new administration. And every time there's a new administration, there is the opportunity for change and the opportunity to get things done. So I still think it's too early to tell where this administration is going to go, but I think by virtue of the fact that we have a Republican in the White House and a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate, there is an opportunity to get things done, to move things forward. Obviously, we have got some very serious challenges here domestically, but also I worry a lot about our foreign policy challenges, our national security challenges. It's a very dangerous world today, and quite honestly, I'm gratified by some of the actions taken by President Trump. We have to be very, very careful about our actions and our words because they carry a great deal of weight around the world. So again, I think there's a natural and healthy tension that exists today in our government, and I think the framers intended that through the separation of powers. So hopefully it won't get so bad that it'll prevent our federal government from doing the things it needs to do to deal with the very challenging issues that confront us today.
Considering the contentious confirmation hearings we saw earlier this year from some of President Trump's cabinet picks, how do you think you would have fared in this environment?
Well, you'll have to ask the Senate. And then, of course, you'd have to tell me what would have been the makeup of the Senate. If you're talking about a Republican-controlled Senate, I would have been confirmed. anyway. It may have been, if it's not a Republican-controlled Senate, there may have been more of a challenge. I benefited from the fact that I was a historic pick as Attorney General, the first Hispanic to serve in that position, and so I think that that would have been helpful. So I think I would have been confirmed. I have confidence that I would have been confirmed.
Well, as far as you're saying you're going to go, you're going to keep, are you doing a book tour?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a book.
Okay.
No, I don't call it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously promote the book, but I take advantage of the opportunity. Like going out to the high school today. I didn't talk about my book. I really don't think I mentioned my book, but just an opportunity to talk about our service and the importance of service. So yes, it's going to continue for a while. I'm not sure how much longer we'll be doing it, but certainly through the summer.
Okay, and so basically that was my question, what are your plans for the future, whether it be your book or where you continue to go from there after you go and you talk to all these people about your book and about your experience as being the Attorney General.
Well, I think that's what I think that's the way it should be. None of these jobs are permanent unless you go on the U.S. Supreme Court. And so you go to Washington, you do your thing, you learn, and then you go back to your community and you impart to everyone that you meet the wisdom and knowledge you've gained from your service. I think that's what everyone should be doing, quite frankly. We made some mistakes, no question about it, and I think that you learn from those mistakes so that those mistakes aren't repeated by the next administration.
What do you think of President Trump's rhetoric on immigration and policies his administration has pursued? Well,
there's a lot of rhetoric, so it's hard for me to respond to precisely to what you're referring to there. Here's what I think. I think that President Trump is right in that we need a secure border. In a post 9/11 world, we have to know who's in this country and why. I think that there are various ways to do that. I don't know whether spending billions of dollars to build a 3,000-mile wall is the right approach. I think you could get a secure border through the use of additional fencing, relying upon the natural terrain in certain areas of the border. Relying on technology such as drones and motion detectors. I think that could achieve a secure border. But I must confess, President Trump told everyone as a candidate what he was going to do. He was elected based upon that platform. And you have to admire someone who's doing what he promised the American people he would do. Having said that, this is a very difficult issue, and I know that. This is an opportunity for the Republicans to show that they can get something done on a very difficult issue. The states and local governments cannot deal with this. This has to be handled by the federal government. I worry sometimes about the rhetoric, not solely from the Trump administration, but from Republicans generally. We are a nation of immigrants. We're also a compassionate people. And so we do need lawful immigration. There's no question about it. And I think we should never lose sight of the fact of who we are as a nation, again, based upon our history and our willingness to take refugees. I think that's all very, very important and should continue. So the rhetoric bothers me at times. And again, I think it's something that as a party, as a people, we need to, I think, do a better job, be more sensitive to the rhetoric.
So if there's anything else that you would like to add or for us to put in the paper, it'll be in the paper tomorrow.
Well, what I'd like to say is how grateful I am for the time that we spent here in Lubbock. We went through a fairly difficult period in Washington, and coming to Lubbock really was very good for me and my family. And we've made some very strong friendships here, and lifelong friendships as far as I'm concerned. And we are Becky and I are delighted to be back here and able to express our sincere appreciation for those friendships.
Okay.